Tonight, the Nancy Guthrie investigation, abduction, burglary, or kidnapping hoax. How investigators determine what really happened. So, at this stage, investigators are still working to determine the underlying nature of this case. Now, while abduction and ransom reporting have been part of early information, law enforcement's also examining other possibilities, including whether this began as a burglary or robbery that escalated, or whether elements may have been staged. That's exactly why investigators move carefully in the first phase. The classification will come from evidence, not assumptions. In this fast-moving missing person or abduction investigation, now in its 11th day, the public will often see isolated headlines in the beginning: abduction, ransom, pleas from the family, and then silence. A feeling that the police are hiding something or that the case has gone cold. But breaking news over the past day tells a different story. This is Truth, Investigations, and Criminal Behavior. I'm Mike Blangiforti, a retired NYPD Detective Squad commander, and this is your command briefing. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through what law enforcement is doing right now in the Nancy Guthrie investigation and why the sequence we're seeing matters. Investigators released a series of photos from a Nest camera of a person they want to identify. Following that, the FBI conducted a vehicle stop in Rio Rico, Arizona, and detained a person of interest. A court-authorized search was executed in Rio Rico, Arizona. There was also a search in the Catalina foothills. A third letter came in claiming to know the kidnapper. A black glove has now been found about a mile and a half from Nancy Guthrie's home. I'm certain that investigators will be looking for DNA, maybe the suspects, maybe Nancy's, probably both. NBC News Telemundo have reported also that the detained person of interest was subsequently released. The man, who identified himself as Carlos Palazuelos, told Telemundo that his house in Rio Rico, south of Tucson, was searched as part of the investigation. The delivery driver said he doesn't remember delivering anything to Guthrie's house and that he doesn't know who she is and wasn't involved in the kidnapping. Those are not random developments. We are seeing the investigation progress in real time. And as of this evening, there have been no additional confirmed developments beyond what I've discussed here. Let's talk about the photo release. When investigators release a photograph during an active abduction case, it's a calculated move. It means that they believe the public may be able to provide identifying information quickly: a name, a location, connection. And this is one of the few moments where the public becomes part of the investigative process. But it could also be a double-edged sword, because when the photo is released to the public, it's also released to the suspect. Investigators will release only what is the best case scenario for the case that they're working on. This photo release signaled progress in the investigation, especially when the likelihood of obtaining surveillance photos did not look good in the beginning. After the photo release, the New York Times reported a vehicle stop in Rio Rico, Arizona, and the FBI detained a person of interest for questioning. Rio Rico, Arizona is located just 12 miles from the Mexican border, and there had to be some type of jurisdictional coordination, obviously, because now we have the FBI, you had Pima County Sheriff's Department, and now we're down in Rio Rico, Arizona. So operationally, that tells us that investigators must have received actionable information, whether through tips, digital tracing, surveillance, maybe there was some type of parallel investigative work, but something that justified immediate contact. Next, vehicle stops in cases like this are often executed to prevent flight, preserve evidence, or secure a subject before circumstances change. They need to be coordinated. deliberate. They're certainly not spontaneous. Now, let's also remember that a person of interest, as they describe it, simply means that investigators believe the individual may have relevant information. Okay. Now, we also had a court-authorized search underway in Rio Rico, Arizona. Now, this is one of the most significant procedural thresholds in any investigation. Why? Search warrants require sworn probable cause presented to a judge. That means that the investigators have had to have articulated specific facts sufficient enough to convince a judge that probable cause of a crime existed. This isn't speculation. This is just the process. This is how it works. Now, usually, when a detention of a person combined with a search warrant occur in that sequence, it usually indicates that the investigation has moved from broad information gathering into more targeted evidence development. So let's talk about evidence protection. At this stage, the public may hear even fewer details. Now, that's intentional. Investigators must protect the family, forensic integrity, interview strategy, and any potential negotiation dynamics. Silence is not inactivity. Law enforcement can stay silent and not reveal anything to the public and still be working 24/7. The silence is often control, but silence, we always have to bear in mind, silence can mean progress. How are abduction investigations built? One of the first things we want to do, not just in abductions, but in many victim cases, is a victimology. That victimology is essentially learning everything we need to know about our victim. Now, every kidnapping investigation begins with the victimology, understanding the victim's routine, their behavior, any health issues, who are their friends, their family, what relationships are they in, with whom, what local organizations do they belong to, who do they associate with, do they have any vulnerabilities. You see, you can't solve this type of case without knowing everything that you can know about the victim. Okay, let's talk about this ransom and cryptocurrency reality. The ransom demands in this case involve paying 6 million in Bitcoin. Now, I'm not a Bitcoin expert or a cryptocurrency expert, but Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is said to be fairly untraceable because you deposit it into a certain account number. Okay. But more and more is coming out that it's not as anonymous as many people think with the proper investigative tools. But there's currently no evidence to support, as of now, that anything has been paid in Bitcoin. Same as there's no evidence to support that proof of life has been provided yet. In a kidnapping case, all of the time, it's the kidnapped person in exchange for money, but the money is not going to be paid unless the people that are paying the money see some type of proof of life. Okay, now let's move on. In this case, we're also seeing that the FBI and other federal resources have integrated with the local agencies and synchronized the execution of interviews, stops, searches, and evidence collection. What may typically follow a detention and a search warrant in this case? Certainly, they're going to be looking at digital device analysis. It's very hard not to leave a digital footprint somewhere. I've also heard the term digital exhaust. We all leave something behind digitally in today's times of everything is digital. They're going to dump everything. They're going to dump the phone, whatever devices. They dump the towers and try to find out everything they can about everybody who was in the area by cell phone number. They're going to do statement corroboration. Can this individual corroborate other statements? They'll seek additional warrants if need be. Investigators have the primary goal of finding Nancy, but they're also going to have the goal of bringing formal charges against the culprits here. Now, what should the public understand? The public always wants an immediate resolution. I know, I've been there, particularly on homicide cases and with families. Of course, they want you to catch the killer. Of course, they want it to be fast. And I understand where families are coming from and seeing that pain in their face and knowing that you're working as hard as you can, but no matter how hard you work, that it's never really hard enough. So we're in a society where we want answers right away. And whether that's being a victim or whether that's just being a member of the public in general. Understand, law enforcement cannot release everything that they know. Naming someone prematurely or releasing incomplete information could jeopardize your case, and you definitely don't want to do that. Law enforcement works from evidence, not assumptions. Prosecutions are built for court, not for headlines. Now, here's the strategic takeaway. As of tonight, the sequence that we've seen since yesterday, the photo release from the Nest camera, the leads flowing in constantly, the leads are coming in. The phones are ringing off the hook at the FBI and at Pima County since these photos were released. Trust me. We've had the detention of a person of interest, a judicial search warrant executed in Rio Rico, Arizona. We've had a search of the Catalina foothills. We've had the discovery of these black gloves 1.5 miles from Nancy's home. And then we had the release of the person of interest from Rio Rico. So sometimes you have to ask yourself, well, are we back to square one again? Well, this is what serious media frenzied cases look like. Take a good look, though, at those surveillance cameras pictures of the masked man from Nancy's home on the night of her disappearance. If you recognize him, or if you see something and want to say something, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. So we're not back to square one on this case. A lot of information comes out, and a lot of information is going to continue to come out as investigators move forward. And the FBI, with all of their tremendous resources and the interagency cooperation, has been nothing short of spectacular. The amount of media attention that this case has garnered is unlike anything I've really seen. But it's important. And why has there been all of this media attention? Why is it dominating the news cycle? It's important. It has hit the public interest so hard that everybody out there right now wants to find Nancy Guthrie with something that hopefully results in a happy ending. Well, that's today's command briefing. Remember, we focus on confirmed developments and real investigative process. Here, it's always facts over speculation. I'll see you on the next briefing.